The Eagles have now won not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, not seven, not eight. How about nine? 9 straight wins for the Philadelphia football team. They're 11-2 on the season, and they continue to have a tremendous amount of success in the ground game, led by Saquon Barkley as he was chugging away yet again on the ground. He dominated. The Birds had 209 total rushing yards and averaged 6.7 yards per attempt on the afternoon. That's pretty good. Pretty good. So the defense has played well. They've met expectations. The problem, well, that would be something that is back to the archaic world of the early days of football, the forward pass. Right? The forward pass, which is something that we just take for granted. But in Philadelphia, not so much. The forward pass. Now, despite name brand pass catchers A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, the struggle is real. The struggle is real. And where's my evidence? Against a bad Carolina team, Jalen Hurts finished with a paltry 108 yards passing. Let me repeat that for those of you a little slow. Jalen Hurts, 108 yards passing on 21 pass attempts. You can do the math in your head on that. Garbage. Garbage. Now, I mentioned birds of a feather complain together. We'd like to have Devontae Smith enter the chat. Devontae Smith was asked about what's missing, what's going on here, what's wrong with the math on this. And if you didn't hear what he said, perhaps not. He said, quote, being on the same page. Devontae Smith said, thinking the same, seeing the right signals, just going out there and making it work. Devontae Smith opined. But wait, there's more. He was not alone. His teammate, A.J. Brown, also tossed a backhanded shot at his quarterback, at Jalen Hurts, saying that the, quote, passing needs to improve after the win against the Carolina football team. So let us discuss. No joy in Mudville. No joy in Mudville. So the question, you've got Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, both unhappy. You've got Devontae Smith saying the Eagles' passing attack is not on the same page. How do you decode the commentary from Devontae Smith and also from A.J. Brown? So I have Instagram model, continuation school, and the self-help book. And we will combine all of these and put them together, and we'll connect them like Legos, is what we're going to do. So to lead off here, the seed of doubt has been planted. Now, if you remember way back to last season, the Philadelphia Eagles were riding high, and then they were shot out of the sky at the end of the season. And clearly that's not going on right now. The Eagles have won 9 in a row. They're on an absolute burner. But in spite of all of these wins, right, you have guys complaining they're not getting the ball enough. They're not making their impact. They're not earning their money. Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. But Devontae Smith, what he's doing is saying the quiet part out loud, and the same with A.J. Brown. Now, they're obviously biased, right? The witness is biased. They want to catch the ball. What fun is it to run all those routes and not get the ball enough? But here's the deal, right? You break it down, the inside skinny. The Eagles, when you take a couple of steps back, what we have here is the seed of doubt, as I said, popping up, and you have a failure to communicate. You've got Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown who are not getting the message to the coaching staff and then also to the quarterback, Jalen Hurts, and Devontae Smith saying the quiet part out loud, that you're piling up all of these wins, right? Mountain of wins there for the Philadelphia Eagles, playing really, really well in terms of wins and losses, but that's a one-trick bird. They're not a pony, they're a bird. There's a one-trick bird going on here in Philadelphia. They can run, a world-class running team. Unfortunately, it is an outdated, antiquated way of playing football that, generally speaking, does not work in the playoffs. Unless you can get into a time machine and go back to the early 80s or even the early 90s, the Dallas Cowboys. People don't like to talk about this out loud, but Troy Aikman was a caretaker to the Cowboy offense. Emmitt Smith was those 90s Cowboys. He was the man that moved the needle, not Troy Aikman. Aikman got into the Hall of Fame because he rode the coattails of the all-time rushing king at the time, Emmitt Smith. But in terms of Philadelphia, can you win this way in the playoffs? Playoffs? You're going to have to play that extra game, and barring some kind of collapse here, the Lions are going to be the number 1 seed. Number 1! And so they're the number 1 seed, and you've got Barkley. Can you run consistently? Enough. Can you do it? The passing attack, don't ask. Cover your eyes bad. They're in the bottom percentile. If you look at the last 7 weeks, Jalen Hurts has been like a yo-yo. Up and down, up and down, up and down, and all around. Spin the yo-yo. Yeah. And how bad has it been? And now he'll have a game where he's at 280 yards, and then he'll come back and have a game under 160 or 170 yards. And there's no consistency. There's no rhyme or reason to the Philadelphia Eagles passing attack. It's all over the place. You know what the Eagles are? They're like an Instagram model. They look a lot better on your phone when you're futzing around with your phone, right? And when you take away the filters and you see the imperfections and all that, it's not that good. That's the Eagles, right? And from a distance on your phone, it's like, that's pretty good. Yeah, look at the record. They're solid. But then you're like, well, is that really real? No, it's just a filter. It's just a filter. And you've got both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith complaining. And here we are on the 9th day of December. The playoffs are right around the corner, right? About a month away, the playoffs in the NFL. And the Birds are not on the same page. They're not on the same page with the passing attack. And they appear to be suffering the heebie-jeebies. Right? The old case of the heebie-jeebies. This is an indictment of Jalen Hurts. This is an indictment of Nick Sirianni. Well, it doesn't matter. They're winning. Yeah, for now. But you and I both know what's going to happen. We know how it plays out in Philadelphia. Our guy Fats in Philly's educated me on this. So at some point, likely sooner than later, the Eagles are going to stub their toe. And then everyone will be running to the counter to air their dirty laundry, to air their complaints and say, this is wrong, that's wrong, it was inevitable, the Eagles were going to lose this game because of blah, 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 blah. And then they'll add on some more blah, 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 just like that. Just a lot of complaints. A lot of complaints. All right, now, furthermore, we head now to San Francisco where the sourdough is good and the football's been bad this year, sub 500. You wouldn't have known that in Santa Clara on Sunday as the Chicago football team came to town, and Brock Purdy was a maestro for the 49ers. He had 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, didn't even finish the game. It was such a blowout. The 49ers vaporized the Chicago Bears. They vaporized them 38-13. Your final score, good afternoon, good evening, and good night as the Chicago Bears go down. So, I would like to be the first to ask you, neutral NFL observer, what is the word for Thomas Brown's debut as the interim coach of the Chicago Bears? Remember, they fired Matt Eberflus because of the Thanksgiving debacle. So Thomas Brown took over. This was his first day on the job as a head coach, first game. So what is the word for Thomas Brown's debut as Bears interim coach? So my word is 2 words. Continuation school. That's what I'm going with here. Because I know from the gambling that we do on the NFL, there's generally a rule of thumb with professional football. And it really applies to all sports, but we're talking about football right now. When you fire the coach, there's more attention to detail. Players are more methodical. They take things that they didn't focus on, and they focus on them more. It's usually what happens because you rally around the substitute teacher. You rally around because you don't want people to then point the finger at you and say, you got the coach fired. So, no, I'm not a coach killer. So you put a little more emphasis on the details, and then generally you get an uptick in performance. We saw the New Orleans Saints fire their coach. They had an uptick in performance, right? The Raiders last year, they played very well with Antonio Pierce, so much that he kept the job, and now they suck. But that usually happens. So the Bears under Thomas Brown, I kept flipping back to this game, and it appears that not only were they disrespecting the substitute teacher, the temporary teacher at the continuation school, everyone was having, like, they were giving out wet willies and putting kick me signs on the coach's back and all that. I mean, they were really going for it. 24-0 the score at halftime of that Bears-49ers game. Chicago on the wrong side. The 49ers played like they had Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Ronnie Lott, Roger Craig. San Francisco at halftime had 319 yards of offense at halftime. The Chicago Bears had 4. Now, if you think that's bad, that is historical. 315-yard edge to the 49ers in the first half. It's one of the 5 largest gaps in recorded history between one team and another at halftime. I think I saw the number was number 4 on the all-time list, the yardage differential at halftime. So tremendous job by Thomas Brown and the players rallying around Thomas Brown. It's fair to say that, your opening act, I don't care how many nice stories you plant in the Chicago media about how great Thomas Brown is, that is a tough sell. That is a hard-to-swallow pill is what that is. Now, last thing, we go to Jersey. Not the Jersey Show, the Swampland in New Jersey. And that is where the Giants playing out the string on another miserable season. And a small plane, hours before kickoff, was circling overhead, roughly 90 minutes while people were tailgating before the Giants game with the New Orleans football team on Sunday. Now, the sign, the small plane had a sign. Did you see this? No? So the sign asked the team owner, John Mara, to overhaul the team. And they haven't made the playoffs since February of 2012. They made a deal with the devil. And when you make a deal with the devil, you've got to hang out for a while because you've made a deal. 2 Super Bowls, 2 bogus Super Bowls, 2 fluke Super Bowls for the Giants. And so as a result of that, the Giants are meeting their payment, which means they have to suck for a generation. But the sign read, Mr. Mara, enough. Please fix this dumpster fire. And then it had an exclamation point. The message read as it was towed behind the rear of the little small plane, their little prop plane. You see this a lot at the beach. Now, some people say, well, why didn't it fly during the game? Well, you're not allowed to fly over an NFL stadium, even when bad teams are playing. So how did you react to the Giant fans, somebody paying for a banner to be flown over MetLife Stadium, which wasn't cheap? I'm not sure how much it cost, but it could not have been cheap with the price of fuel and whatnot. So my answer, misguided. It was misguided, and I will give out free advice. I don't know who these people were that paid for the sign. I don't know who they are, but free advice. I would like you to read my self-help book. Okay, I want you to read my self-help book. You care too much. Okay, that's your mistake. What are you talking about? You care too much. Let me explain. What I'm about to tell you is the most important thing, okay, as a fan. And if you follow this mantra, you'll be a better fan, and you'll be more effective as a fan. Here it is. My self-help book, You Care Too Much, A Complete Idiot's Guide to the Magical, Mystical Powers of Apathy. That is the word. Once you reach a higher level of apathy, okay, I don't care what kind of clinical research you bring up and all that, that is what moves action. It just is. When the fan base collectively says we're not watching your crappy product, we're not buying your merchandise, we're not going to the stadium, we're done. We're taking a break. We have apathy. Your product is not good. Why would we support the restaurant? There's cockroaches all over the food. Why would we support the restaurant? And it's passivity, or as I like to use the word, apathy. That is what is power. The Dodgers are the greatest team in the world right now in baseball, right? On fire. But there was a period not that long ago when this evil man named Frank McCourt owned the Dodgers. He ran them into the ground. And instead of signing players like Shohei Ohtani, they signed Hee-Seop Choi. It was a much different time. And the Dodger fans stopped watching. They stopped supporting the team. And that apathy scared Major League Baseball so much, one of the crown jewels of their sport, that they forced Frank McCourt, the evil owner, to sell the team. Now, they gave him a sweetheart deal. He still owns the parking lots, and Frank's still able to stick it to Dodger fans. by price gouging them with ridiculous parking prices. But they got rid of him as the owner, and the Dodgers have been great ever since. So you need to put the proper pressure. The pressure is not flying a prop plane over a stadium saying, hey, sell the team or fix this or whatever. And in life in general, I know this is true in relationships when you're dating somebody. Women have mastered this. The person who cares less has the most power. All right? If somebody really is into somebody else and the other person's kind of going through the motion, like they're the ones that have the power. And it's no different in the dynamic as a fan when you're upset your team's not playing well. But if you get upset, that's an emotion. They want that. They'd rather have you angry than not caring. They'd rather have you very happy or very angry. But if you don't care, that scares people. In the industrial complex of sports, that messes everything up. They can't sell their products. They can't charge more for commercials. It's a big deal. The group that has the least amount of interest, they're the ones that have the power.